Welcome to Tapped In. My name is Dave Figueroa-Martinez, and on this episode, I'm going to be discussing winning the inner round. And this is a bit more abstract in a way, and it's focusing more on how you are responding to things during your rounds and less to do with what your opponent is doing or not doing. I think that, especially now as a black belt, I will get on the mat with someone and I can kind of tell if they're going to be willing to give me a fight. Most of my students are pretty used to me, so I'm just another training partner, and they will go ham if they need to. They will push the pace. Their goal is to submit me. But there's times when I'll get on the mat with someone who maybe I don't roll with very often, and they see the black belt and there's like this weird mystique, and they alter how they would normally roll. We also have students who are, maybe it's not the black belt, but they're relatively new and they're rolling with a higher belt of some kind, and they allow that higher belt, whether it's because of past rolls or the belt itself, to kind of get into their head, and they don't respond well to the rounds. They're already defeated. They've accepted that it's going to be a bad round. They accepted that they're going to get smashed or ground into the mat or submitted or swept or whatever. The most difficult people on the mat for me are not always black belts. The most difficult people for me are wrestlers, people on the teams in the military, and people who just have a solid mindset of, I might get fucked up, but I'm going to push the pace. And that usually comes from wrestlers and people on the teams. And there's just this mindset of, I don't care what the odds are. I don't care that I'm expected to lose. I don't care that I am expected to do badly. I'm just going to go balls to walls and I'm going to see what's going to happen. And there's times when I'll get like a 3 or 4 stripe white belt, and they have that mentality of they're just going to go. And they commit 100% into the technique. The technique is flawed. It's not done correctly, but because they put so much emphasis on doing it and their commitment level was at such a high level that they get the sweep. And you'd be surprised how often that happens. You'd be surprised about how often someone can do a technique correctly, but because they haven't put the emphasis into it and they haven't completely committed into doing that technique, they're doing everything right, but it fails because of the lack of commitment. So there's 2 things that go on in play there. Your willingness to just go. And then there's that willingness or that hesitation of like, oh, I'm going to get beat up, or I don't want to make a mistake, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. None of that matters. Just go. So when we start off a match, for example, if you're a lower belt, don't start on your butt. Don't start on your back. Do not give the higher belt any level of advantage above you that they already have. So if, for example, it's me and another, let's say I'm going against a higher ranking black belt, someone I know is going to murk me. I don't start on my back. Sometimes I'll start on my butt. Maybe it's a skill that I have. Maybe the position is better for me than for them. But more often than not, I'll start with one knee down, one knee up if we're not allowed to stand. And the goal being, the further I am down on the chain of starting position, the more real estate I'm giving up to the other person. The other person I'm conceding real estate, I'm conceding territory, I'm conceding top position to them. And they're already that much better than me that what is the point? So when you start, you slap hands, you bump fists, one knee up, one knee down if you have to start on the ground, or stand up. Oftentimes they'll be on their butt. You should stand up. Take the top position. It already garners a psychological approach of I'm dictating what's going to happen next. When we sit and we play off the back, you're now playing a defensive position. You're conceding that they're better than you. You're conceding that they're going to end up putting you there anyway. Why not start there? And then they're taking that top position and using it against you. There's way too much. You're going to be on your back way too much as is. Don't start there because you think that's where it's going to end up. No, you're going to impose yourself. So all these ideas and these things that we tell ourselves where we're like, oh, I'm going to lose anyway. I'm going to do this and they're going to beat me. They're going to get this submission. You kind of have to erase it and understand that what you're doing is training and what you're doing is trying to get better at something. You're going to suck. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to fail a lot. And that is perfectly fine. But you have to be an active participant in your success. A lot of that is seeing how you're going to start the match. Don't start on your back. Don't start on your butt against a higher level. The other aspect is immediately start hand fighting. You want to get the grips you want first. And the act of hand fighting puts you in a more aggressive manner or position because you don't want to concede anything. It's almost as if we're being too cordial and we're allowing the opponent to get their grip on the collar or the head or the wrist. And then we're like, okay, now I can go. You've given up so much real estate in that exchange that you're almost dooming yourself to whatever's going to come next. Apply it like we both have a right to whatever position, grip, sweep, transition, pass, submission, whatever it is. We both have equal rights to that. I want to be first. If I can make them work from a deficit, my odds of success increase. It doesn't mean I'm going to stay in that position. They might sweep me, but everything starts to increase a little bit. And then when that increases, you're now actively seeing a little bit of success. Maybe you're on top and you've never been on top because you've started on your butt the whole time. And then you start getting a little bit more experience there. Maybe you're bigger. If you're bigger, start using your size. Allow your weight to start coming down on them. Make them have to work. Make them have to deal with frames. Make them have to deal with gravity. Let that be part of you imposing yourself. Also, there's like these little small victories that I always rely on, specifically against people who I am not as good at, who I know can beat me. I will automatically, and this isn't necessarily healthy, throw out the submission out of my game. My idea is like, I know this person's going to get me at some point. Setting my submission as the primary goal is too lofty in that situation that I'm not going to attain it and I'm going to get frustrated. So I set smaller goals. Start grading the rounds less about win and loss and more about awareness and response. I know that this person likes to loop choke, for example. I need to be aware what is the initial grip that he likes or she likes for the loop choke. Negate that. That's my goal against that person. They will not loop choke me. They may attempt to loop choke. I defend. That's a win. They may have some follow-up that leads right back into the loop choke, but that's fine. I negated his number one attack. Now he needed to do some other things in order to get me into that position, but I negated the first. After that, then okay, how do we negate the second? Take these little wins and let them be your guiding force. The other aspect of this is, how do you respond when things get bad? If I get swept and there's a moment where you get swept, let's call it A, and you get swept in scissor sweep, they come up to mount, they solidify mount, now they're at stage B. I didn't do anything between the stages of A and B that would have corrected the position or put me in a better spot. That's on me. That's the little victories that you're going to have to look for. When he starts to sweep, I need to post a leg or an arm to prevent myself from touching the mat in a bad way. If I can do that, then I've negated the sweep. That's a win. If I can't negate the sweep and he starts to sweep me anyway and my back or my hip touch the mat, I now have to do something before he solidifies mount, whether that's hip escaping and maybe going to single leg X, hip escaping, getting both legs between us and getting to butterfly, or maybe I landed, but I was able to get up right away. I was able to frame against his hip so he couldn't come on top into mount. Those are the little wins and the little micro victories that have to take place in order to get the bigger victories. I'm going to get swept at times. You're going to get swept at times. You're going to be in bad position. Someone's going to try to strangle you or submit you with an arm lock. Start paying attention to things that are happening beforehand and addressing those and counting those as small victories. There's always these times when I'll be going with someone and I'll get a sweep and I can feel the energy just kind of like drain away. And it doesn't frustrate me because I understand the position, like I've been there. But after a while, I'm like, okay, you have to do something here. None of this matters. Like when you go home, none of it matters. So you're going to go home and you're going to live out the rest of your day. This loss isn't the worst thing that's going to happen to you. So feeling like you're defeated and you're letting everything just drain away from you is a waste of your time. I got swept. Okay. I got work to do here now. I get to work on my defense. I get to work on my escapes. It's a benefit. I've rolled against people who have this weird, like, they get defeated and they don't even put up a fight after that. They don't put up much of a fight after that sweep that they just didn't want to give up. They don't put up their frames the way they normally would. They don't hip escape the way they normally would, and they just struggle. And it doesn't benefit you, me, or anyone else on the mat. Address the issue and just take everything else as a positive. I'm on my back. I'm in a bad position. I get to now work out of this and get some experience in working out of this position. If you can take it that way, you don't get discouraged by all the negatives that are going to happen. Because at the end of the day, all of this is in preparation for your next belt. And all of this are forms of ingredients that are going to help you season and develop your game. Don't take any of it negatively. There are things that have to happen for you to get better. Emotional clarity in general is something that I don't always see. If you have a really chaotic mind, and this happens early on because everything's a death or everything's a traumatic episode in a sense, especially if you've never had someone on your chest, you've never had someone on your back, everything is like DEFCON type alert level. After you gain some experience, calm the mind. Don't have it flooded with, oh, fuck, I suck, or fuck, I messed up, or I didn't do this. Frame everything around, remain calm, take a deep breath. Where are my frames? Where is his weight, his or her weight? If is it on top of me? Is it off to the right? If it's off to the right, I don't have any weight behind me. I can hip escape. If it's centered, let me frame up, protect my neck, protect him or her from switching to the next stage, whether it's side control to mount, whether it's side control to north-south, or he has half the back and I shouldn't let him take the whole back. Stop for a second. Make sure your frames are in place. Clear your mind of any negative thoughts. They do not help you. And stay in the moment of what is actually occurring. That emotional clarity, some people will describe it as being numb. Yes and no. But it's really about being centered and in the moment and understanding that you have to watch for what's coming next and not what happened. What happened doesn't matter at that stage. Afterwards, we can review. We can answer questions, or we can ask questions, and we can discuss with our partners, hey, how did you get to this position? And what were you looking for? And what did I do that encouraged you to get to that? And we can do all those things later. In the moment, take it as your mindful practice. A lot of us don't spend a whole lot of time meditating or outside of our phones and outside of stressors. Use jiu-jitsu as your mindful moment. Nothing else fucking matters. If I worry too much about what just occurred, my opponent's on to the next stage. Like if I left an arm out and he's going on to armbar, he's moving. If I'm stuck on the mistake that I made, he's now isolated the arm. If I'm stuck on that mistake, he's now extending the arm. If I'm stuck on that mistake, he's now driving the hips in. So get into this habit of clearing your mind of the emotion behind everything, clearing your mind of the despair or the embarrassment or I fucked up or I made this mistake. At that moment, none of it matters. The same can be said about anything positive that you do. Don't look at your work. Don't pat yourself on the back. Don't look at anything and be like, oh yeah, I did that. Doesn't matter at that moment. Because if I get to mount and I pause to kind of congratulate myself, I can get reversed just like that. So positive or negative, push it off to the side, worry about it later. In the moment, clear your mind of any negative thoughts. Don't beat yourself up. Don't pat yourself on the back. What do you need to do next? And let that be the most pressing objective. If you do not have an answer, frame up. Get really defensive. The most annoying people are Derek, who's a purple belt, who goes to mount and he brings his hands in really tight. It's hard to get past. Sarah, when she's in turtle and she brings everything in tight and she gets super defensive and it's hard to get any chokes or collars. So Dave, who's a purple belt who moved up north, he was the same way. They knew or they know how to, something bad happen and they shell up. It gives them time to get their breath back. It gives them time to kind of calm down, center themselves, and then they wait for you to make a mistake. That's what I often do when I'm in bad position. I relax. I don't harp on anything. My two top things that I need to do, make sure I'm defensively sound, and then I'm breathing. If I'm breathing really heavy, if I'm not taking time to get that air back, my opponent can then start to push, and then I have to deal with that next phase, and I'm out of breath. One more thing before I forget. Mask everything that you're doing. Mask every bad decision you feel you made. Mask it all. Have a poker face. Cover your face almost like I've been told I have a resting bitch face. It is so useful for jiu-jitsu. I continually catch my breath. I relax. You don't normally feel me tense. I do a really good job of masking when I'm upset with something I did. I sit and I wait for the next movement. If I can wait long enough and act like I'm not exhausted, if I can control my breathing just good enough that it kind of hides it, if I'm exhausted, if I'm maybe injured, I don't want to say injured. If I am nursing something, I hide that. If I'm in a bad position and I know I'm in a bit of a bad position, but maybe they haven't realized it yet, I mask that. Hide all of it. You have to be almost like a poker player in a lot of these things. And let yourself just sit. There's times when I just block everything and I get really defensive and I wait for the opening of the next attack, and that's when I get out. Anyways, if you have any questions on any of this, I think that it's probably something that a lot of people are kind of dealing with. You can message me on dfm.2099, or if you want to work with me, dfmcoaching.com. If you want more stuff like this, I highly encourage you to get BJJ Mental Models Premium. You can get my code, Figueroa-Martinez, all one word, and get a discount. It's one of the best platforms for jiu-jitsu mindset and approach that there is. They do a lot of what I'm doing here, maybe on a bigger level or in longer episodes. Anyways, thank you so much. Till next time.